In the deepest markets of space, where smoke from alien forges curled into the cold air, and the glow of strange crystals lit the paths between stalls, voices lowered when one name was spoken, a name that carried more weight than weapons and more fear than warlords, and that name was Earth. Alien traders who had traveled across hundreds of systems leaned close to one another, sharing warnings in tones softer than the hum of their ships. They told stories that seemed more like nightmares than history. They spoke of a world that was not a home, but a battlefield where survival was never a gift, it was always a fight, and where even the smallest mistake meant certain death. On this world, storms were not gentle rains that fed crops. They were walls of fury that tore down mountains and drowned entire lands. Winds screamed like wild beasts, ripping apart everything in their path. Lightning crashed so fiercely it split forests into flames, while floods swallowed valleys in minutes. Even the strongest shelters failed, and yet humans endured, standing again and again after each strike, as if nothing could truly keep them down. The merchants described predators that no other world could imagine, beasts with teeth longer than blades, eyes that glowed in the dark, and claws sharp enough to cut through bone. These creatures hunted with endless hunger, but humans did not bow to them. Instead, they fought back, building traps, shaping weapons, and sometimes taking the predator's power for their own. Legends said humans wore the skins of the very monsters that once hunted them, turning fear into armor. And still, that was not the greatest danger, for humans faced something even harsher than nature and beasts. They faced each other on battlefields soaked in fire and blood. They made weapons that shook the ground and split the sky. They destroyed cities only to rise from the ashes stronger than before. Unlike most species who fought for survival, humans fought also for pride, for power, for the will to prove they would not break. And every time they fell, they climbed higher. They were unbroken, their fire brighter than before. Across the galaxy, rumors spread faster than trade ships. Whispers of Earth reached councils, courts, and war fleets, until finally the Great Council of the Core Worlds demanded answers. A report was delivered, sealed with the mark of truth. Within it, the words were cold and simple: Earth has been recorded as the most terrifying planet in the galaxy. The council chamber filled with silence as the report was read. One by one, alien leaders shifted in unease, their scaled hands, claws, and tendrils curling with fear. No empire wanted to touch such a world. No fleet wanted to face its people. For if a single planet could break the spirit of all who visited, then what would happen if its children left the cradle of their home? Far from the shining halls of the council, a small scout ship drifted in the black sea of space, its crew of varied races, sent only to confirm what the galaxy feared. The ship was quiet as it approached the blue-green orbit's surface, glowing under the light of its sun. The crew whispered to each other, their voices unsteady. Some spoke of turning back while there was still time, others of capturing proof so they could sell it for wealth. But one voice, the captain's voice, cut through all fear. "We go closer," the captain said. Against all warnings, against every instinct, the ship moved into the shadow side of the planet. Scanners lit the darkness, beams reaching across oceans and mountains. Strange signals began to pulse back through the static, faint at first like whispers in the void, then louder, stronger, weaving into patterns that none of the crew could understand. The pulses were not random. They carried order, they carried intent. The crew gathered around the display, eyes fixed on the glowing lines forming across the screen. What was this? A warning, a cry for help, or something else, something worse? Each signal layered upon the last, until it looked like a web of light stretching across the shadowed face of Earth. One officer trembled as the readings came through his translator, his voice breaking. When he spoke, "These are not warnings," he said, "these are challenges." The crew leaned forward, staring at the lines on the screen that twisted and curled like a living thing of code, not begging for mercy, but daring anyone to come closer, daring anyone to test the world that no one dared claim and no one dared conquer. Then the ship's sensors flickered once, twice, before locking on to something that made every heart stop. The shadowed side of the planet was not empty. It was not silent. The scanners revealed faint glimmers, countless small lights, moving not in chaos, but in perfect rhythm, like eyes hidden in the darkness, turning upward and staring directly at the ship. The crew froze, unable to breathe. Thousands of signals, thousands of eyes, all fixed on them, watching from the shadow, as if the planet itself had awakened, as if the humans themselves already knew who was there. And in that silence filled with dread, the alien crew realized the truth Earth was not just terrifying because of storms or beasts or wars. It was terrifying because the humans knew they were being watched, and they were watching back. The crew of the scout ship sat frozen in their stations, their hands hovering above controls, their voices trapped in their throats. The sight before them was not one that logic could explain, for in the darkness of the planet, countless lights had awakened, moving in ways too precise, too deliberate to be anything but alive. It was as if the night side of Earth had become a living map, and each glimmer was an eye staring into their souls. The captain tried to steady his breath, though even he could feel the weight of something pressing against his chest. It was not gravity, it was not the pull of the planet, it was the unseen force of fear, the kind that crawled into the mind and whispered that it was already too late. Yet the captain refused to order retreat. Instead, he leaned forward, eyes fixed on the main display, as if daring those eyes on the surface to blink first. One of the younger crew, a thin-scaled alien with trembling hands, whispered, "Why are they looking at us? How do they know we are here? No signal should reach them, no scan should reveal us. We are hidden in orbit. This is impossible." But the words felt hollow even to him, for deep inside every soul aboard the ship they knew Earth was no ordinary world. The sensors continued to hum as they gathered more data. The signals grew stronger, clearer, not random bursts, but organized sequences flowing like language, though no one could decode. Every pulse, every flash seemed designed not to ask questions, but to issue commands, and each rhythm carried with it an edge sharp as a blade, daring them to answer. An older crew member covered in plated armor muttered in a low voice, "This is not just a planet. This is a trap. Every story they told us in the markets was true. Storm's monsters wore, none of it frightened me. But this is something else. The humans, they want us to come closer." The ship's engines rumbled lightly, as if the vessel itself hesitated to obey the captain's command. Silence stretched across the bridge, broken only by the hum of machines, until the captain finally spoke, his voice heavy. "We came here for answers, and we will not leave until we find them." The words fell like stones into water, ripples of dread spreading through the crew, yet none dared to challenge him, for to disobey a captain was to invite dishonor, and worse. But they watched as the ship lowered its orbit inch by inch, pulling them nearer to the blue-green world below. As the planet grew larger in their view, they began to see shapes on the surface, vast scars where storms had torn through continents, mountains that jutted like jagged teeth, and forests so dark and endless they seemed ready to swallow whole cities. One crew member whispered that no life should have survived such fury, and yet the lights still burn on the night side, a silent proof that something thrived here, something powerful enough to outlive nature itself. Then, without warning, the ship's communications array sparked alive. A signal burst through with such force that alarms screamed across the bridge, red lights flashing as screens flooded with incomprehensible code. The language twisted across their monitors in lines and spirals impossible to read. Yet the pattern was undeniable. It was not chaos, it was intelligence. The crew scrambled at their stations, each voice rising in panic as they tried to filter the message. One shouted, "It is a warning." Another shouted, "No, it is a lure." The armored one growled louder, "It is both. The humans want us to see, they want us to know they are awake." Through the chaos, the captain stood, unmoving, his eyes locked on the screen, his voice steady though his hands clenched so tightly they nearly bled. "Translate it," he ordered. "I want every fragment broken down. I want to know what they are saying, even if it kills us." The crew obeyed, fingers rushing across controls, lights flickering as the ship strained to process the storm of information. But for every fragment they cracked another 3 rows. In its place, the code seemed endless, like a river without end, flowing with the will of something vast, something that did not sleep. Then a terrible sound echoed across the bridge, not from their speakers, not from the ship, but from the space around them, a low vibration that shook their bones, a soundless roar that could be felt but not heard. The younger alien screamed, "They see us, they are calling to us, the humans know." The bridge fell silent as every face turned to the viewport outside. There in the distance, beyond the thin veil of atmosphere, the night side of Earth shifted, lights spreading wider, brighter, until entire continents seemed to blaze in patterns like veins of fire, crisscrossing mountains and plains and oceans, forming one great symbol that filled their eyes. The crew gasped, unable to breathe. It was no natural formation, no accident. This was a message written on the very skin of the world below, glowing across the shadow like a scar of light. The Armored One whispered, the humans have written their challenge across their planet itself. Before they could react, the ship shook as something unseen brushed against it. Alarms shrieked as hull sensors detected nothing. Yet everything, it was as if invisible hands had dragged claws across their vessel. The younger alien fell from his seat, screaming, "They are reaching for us. They are trying to pull us down." The captain barked, "Hold steady," but his voice cracked the fear inside him. Finally, surfacing, the ship fought against the unseen grip, engines roaring, as if trapped in a storm. Though no storm was present, the crew clung to their stations, eyes wide in terror, as the invisible force pressed harder, threatening to drag them into the very atmosphere of the planet. In that moment, the captain understood the truth. This was not an accident. This was not random. Earth itself was alive in ways they could not comprehend. And the humans were not just survivors, they were hunters, and they had marked the intruders in orbit. The grip loosened just enough for the ship to steady. The alarms dimmed, though fear remained. Every crew member looked to the captain, waiting for the order to flee, but the captain did not speak, his eyes still locked on the glowing patterns across the world below. And then new words formed across the main display, clear, sharp, burning into the screen. 3 words in the common tongue of the galaxy: "Come down now." The bridge fell silent, the crew frozen by the impossible. The humans were not asking, they were commanding, and the worst part of all was the deep voice in every mind that whispered they must obey. The bridge of the scout ship hung heavy with silence, though every mind aboard screamed with the same thought. The message had been clear, undeniable, and impossible, for the humans had spoken across the void, commanding them to descend. No longer whispers, no longer hidden patterns, but words carved into screens and burned into their thoughts. The youngest crew member shook his head in disbelief, his eyes wide with terror, his voice trembling. "They know our language. They know how to speak to us. This is not chance. This is not mistake. This is intention. The humans have been watching us, waiting for us." The armored veteran slammed his fist against the console, his growl echoing through the chamber. "Do you not see? This is no invitation. This is bait. They want us to step into their jaws. The planet is their weapon, and they are its masters." But the captain stood tall, his face pale, yet his voice steady, though weighted with doubt. "We came seeking truth. We came to see if the stories were real, and now we stand at the edge of that truth. If we turn away, now we will never be free of it. It will haunt us forever, so we go down." A murmur of fear swept through the crew, but none dared to challenge him, for the chains of command bound them as tightly as their own dread. Engines roared alive as the ship began to descend into the thick veil of atmosphere, the hull shuddering as flames licked at its sides like the breath of some colossal beast. The younger alien clutched his seat, whispering prayers to stars and ancestors, his voice lost under the howl of turbulence, while the Armored One kept his gaze fixed on the view beyond the glass, his eyes narrowing as the clouds opened to reveal the world beneath, stretching wide like a predator revealing fangs. They saw forests endless and black rivers that carved through land like veins, mountains sharp as blades, oceans that churned with storms that seemed alive, each sight a reminder that Earth was no home. It was a battlefield carved by nature's cruelty and sharpened by human will. The ship trembled as it pierced deeper through the skies, lightning flashing around them, thunder rolling so close it rattled their bones. One bolt struck the hull, alarms blared as systems flared, yet the ship held together, as if defying the planet's fury, though the crew could not ignore the thought that perhaps the storm itself was watching them. At last the turbulence eased, and the ship broke through to clear skies. Below, the ground stretched vast and wild, and in the distance lights glittered, not stars, but settlements, cities carved by human hands, standing against the chaos of their world, proof that they not only survived but thrived where no other race dared tread. Then the signal came again, sharper, louder, burning through their screens with words that clawed into their minds. "Land here." Coordinates followed, glowing bright on the display, pointing to a dark valley surrounded by jagged cliffs and shadowed forests. The Armored One hissed, "This is madness. It is a killing ground." The captain's jaw tightened, but he spoke with grim resolve. Prepare for landing. Engines flared as the ship angled toward the valley. Clouds swirled like curtains, drawing them into the stage of some ancient play. The closer they drew, the darker the land became, shadows thickening, as if the sun itself feared to enter this place. The crew watched in silence, every breath shallow, every hand shaking as the ship descended into the valley, the ground rising to meet them like jaws closing around prey. The landing struts touched soil with a heavy thud, the sound echoing through the hull like a heartbeat. For a moment there was silence, then the sensors shrieked, picking up dozens, no hundreds of moving forms surrounding them from every side, invisible to the eye, but clear to the machines. The younger alien cried out, "They are here, they are everywhere." The armored veteran bared his teeth, gripping the hilt of his weapon. If they want war, then they will have it. But even as he spoke, his voice carried the weight of doubt, for he knew, as all of them knew, that war against humans was no victory, only doom. The captain raised his hand, silencing them all, eyes locked on the viewport outside, where the shadows stirred shapes, emerging tall figures, moving with precision, their forms strange yet unmistakably alive, eyes gleaming like fire in the dark. The crew held their breath as one figure stepped forward into the dim light, the shape of a human clear against the gloom, tall, strong, wrapped in simple armor that bore the marks of battle's past, scars across both metal and flesh. Their gaze burned with the same fire that had stared at them from orbit, a gaze that pierced through fear and left only silence. The human raised a hand, and the valley echoed with a sound unlike any the aliens had heard before. Not words, yet not noise, a call, a challenge, a command that shook the air itself. The screens on the ship flickered again, translating the meaning into 3 words: "You are late." The crew recoiled, confusion and dread clashing in their minds. How could the humans know they were coming? How could they speak as if expecting them? The younger alien whispered, "This is impossible. This cannot be chance. They have seen us before." The armored one growled louder, "They knew we would come. They lured us here. They planned this from the start." The captain's voice cut through their panic, his eyes fixed on the human outside, who stood unmoving like a sentinel of the world. "We came for answers, and now we have found them. But the answer may be worse than the question." As if to confirm his fear, the ground beneath the ship trembled, faint at first, then stronger, until stones cracked and dust rose. The valley itself seemed to wake, and from the cliffs above more humans appeared, dozens, then hundreds, their eyes glinting, their movements silent, precise, like predators closing in. The crew could feel it in their bones. The truth of the stories whispered across the stars. Earth was not merely dangerous. Earth was alive with hunters who had turned survival into art and war into instinct, and now those hunters had turned their gaze on them. The captain's hand hovered over the controls, torn between fight and flight, but deep within he knew neither would save them, for they had answered the summons of Earth, and Earth never let go. The human outside raised their hand again, and the screens lit up with a single word repeated again and again: "Welcome, welcome, welcome," until the lights burned so bright the crew could no longer see. The light from the screens faded, leaving the crew blinking in the sudden darkness of the valley outside. The shapes of humans still stood, waiting, their glowing eyes fixed upon the ship like torches burning in silence. The air felt heavy, as though the world itself held its breath, watching what choice would be made next. The youngest alien whispered, trembling, "We cannot open the hatch. If we do, they will swarm us. They will tear us apart. This is trap. This is certain death." The armored veteran growled, yet his growl carried fear beneath its surface. "If we stay inside, we rot like prey inside cage. If we leave, we meet hunters face to face. Both paths are death, but at least one lets us fight." The captain stood, unmoving, his gaze never leaving the human figure, standing before the ship, tall, strong, with eyes that pierced through metal walls like spears of fire, his voice calm but heavy spoke, "We came for truth. We came for answers. The truth does not hide inside walls. Open the hatch." Gasps rippled through the crew, one by one, eyes turned toward him filled with disbelief. Yet the command was clear, and the hatch began to lower with a slow grinding roar, the metal ramp groaning as dust swirled in the cold valley air. The sound echoed like a drumbeat of doom. The first breath of Earth's air hit them sharp, filled with scents of soil and storm and life, raw, and untamed, unlike the filtered winds of their ships. It clawed into lungs with primal force, reminding them this world was not built for comfort, but for survival. The crew stepped down their boots, sinking into the ground of Earth for the first time, every step heavier than the last, as if the planet itself weighed upon them. The human shapes shifted, moving closer, yet not with the mindless charge of beasts, but with the silent coordination of predators, circling prey, each step deliberate, each movement controlled. The younger alien clutched his chest, his voice breaking. They watch us, as if they know every weakness, as if they see the fear in our hearts. The armored one unsheathed his blade, its edge glinting under the faint light. He whispered more to himself than others. They do not see weakness, they see challenge. The captain raised his hand, halting both fear and aggression, his eyes locked on the figure at the front, the leader, perhaps the first to step into light, the human, who had spoken through signals with words that haunted them. Still you are late. The human stepped forward, eyes burning like twin suns, their face marked by scars earned not from age, but from battle, each line a tale of survival and triumph. The silence deepened, until even the wind seemed to still. Then the humans spoke, their voice rough, yet steady, translated across the ship's systems into words all could understand. You crossed the stars to find the truth, now the truth stands before you. The crew trembled. The youngest alien managed to speak, his voice fragile like glass. What truth? What do you want from us? The human's eyes narrowed, a faint smile pulling at their scarred lips. We do not want from you, we wait for you. You were always coming, you could not stay away. Every race that learns of Earth eventually comes. Everyone leave changed, if they leave at all. The armored one spat, his voice defiant. We are not weak, we are not prey. The human tilted their head, the faint smile unchanged. Then prove it. With a signal, the humans surrounding the valley shifted, parting the shadows to reveal structures hidden against the cliffs, cages of steel, arenas of stone, fires burning with the smell of smoke and iron. The valley was no empty ground. It was a place of trials, built not for prisoners, but for challengers. The captain's voice hardened. What is this? What game is this? The human leader raised a hand, pointing toward the arenas. This is no game. This is the truth. You came to see Earth now. You must endure Earth, survive our trial, or never leave this place. The crew shuddered. The younger alien's legs nearly gave way, his voice quivering. We cannot survive this. We should run. We should flee before it begins. The captain spoke with steel in his voice. If we flee, we die, hunted through this world. If we fight, we may find the truth, and perhaps live. We have no choice. The humans moved with silent precision, guiding them toward the arenas, the fires crackling, casting shadows across stone walls marked with scars from battles of the past, the air thick with tension and the echo of screams long faded. Inside the arena, ground of dirt and rocks stretched wide, weapons scattered across its floor, not elegant, not clean, but brutal tools forged for survival, knives, axes, spears, each carrying marks of use, each carrying stains of blood. The human leaders stood upon the edge, raising their voice. This is Earth. This is where nature forged us. Storms tore our homes. Beasts hunted our children. Fire burned our skies. Yet we stood, we fought, we endured. If you wish to stand before Earth, you will endure the same. The armored one stepped forward, his voice a growl. Then let it begin. The ground shook as gates opened, and from the shadows, beasts emerged, creatures unlike anything the aliens had seen before, snarling jaws, snapping claws raking against stone, eyes glowing with hunger, monsters born of Earth's cruelty, each one stronger than predators of entire worlds. The younger alien cried out, falling back, his voice breaking. These things will kill us. This is slaughter. The captain drew his weapon, eyes fixed steady upon the beast, his voice low but sharp. Then we fight not for glory, not for pride, but for survival, for the truth. The arena erupted with sound, claws striking stone, roars filling the night. The aliens raised weapons, fear burning, yet resolve flickering against despair. Steel clashed against fawn, cries filled the air. The trial had begun. And above them, the humans watched from the cliffs, their eyes unblinking, their faces calm, as if they were not witnessing slaughter, but judgment, as if they were waiting to see if these outsiders would rise or fall. Blood stained the ground, dust filled the air, every strike, every scream echoing against the valley walls. The aliens fought like prey, yet were forced to learn to fight like hunters, pushed to their limits by the beasts of Earth, until the truth carved itself into their bones. The captain struck one creature his blade, sinking deep his voice a ragged roar we will not break. And in the shadows the human leader smiled, for the trial was only beginning. The arena shook with the fury of beasts clawing the ground, snarling with hunger, their eyes burning like fire in the night. The alien crew stood shoulder to shoulder, blades raised, claws, trembling hearts pounding, as if the air itself was crushing their lungs, yet they did not fall. They did not surrender, for to surrender was to die without honor. The captain led the charge, his weapon flashing in the firelight, his voice raw with power. Strike them. Do not let fear control you. Fight as if the stars themselves burn in your blood. His words carried through the chaos, holding the crew together against the endless tide of jaws and claws. The armored one roared, swinging his blade wide, severing the limbs of a monstrous beast that lunged for him. The ground shook beneath the weight of its fall. Yet more came snapping, tearing, moving with the savagery of storms, the air filled with dust and blood and the cries of war. The younger alien stumbled back, terror clawing at his throat. A massive predator, twice his size, pounced, but the captain was faster, driving his blade into the creature's chest, his voice harsh. Survive or be consumed. This world does not forgive the weak. Above them, the humans watched, silent eyes, glowing like stars in the dark, their faces without pity, without anger, only waiting, only judging, as if they had seen this all before, as if every moment had been repeated across endless challengers who had come and failed in this same arena. The alien medic struck with trembling hands, driving a spear into another beast, her voice breaking. We are healers, not killers. Yet her strike was true, and the creature fell thrashing against the ground. She stared at her bloodied hands, shivering with shock, yet also with something darker rising from within. The battle raged, every strike carving new wounds into the earth, every scream a reminder that this was not trial alone, this was war of survival. This was Earth itself teaching them, through pain and terror, what it meant to live here, what it meant to endure here. The captain fell to one knee as a claw raked across his shoulder, blood soaking into his armor. Yet he rose again, teeth clenched, eyes burning. He would not fall, not here, not now. The crew saw his strength and followed him, even as exhaustion tore at their bones, even as despair whispered in their ears. The armored one laughed, though his laughter was wild, filled with madness. If this is Earth, then I will carve my name into its flesh. He struck again, and again, each blow fueled, not by hope, but by defiance, for even if death came, he would not give it victory. The youngest alien's fear cracked, replaced by a spark of something he had never known before, a fire that burned hot against the cold grip of death. He screamed, striking at a beast, his weapon tearing across its hide. And for the first time, he did not feel weak. He felt alive. He felt like a hunter. The humans above nodded, as if marking something unseen, their leader's voice carrying across the arena calm. Yet sharp, you begin to understand. Earth does not test your strength. Earth teaches you your fear is your first enemy, your weakness your second. If you survive, it is not because you are strong, it is because you learned. The aliens gasped between strikes, their minds reeling from the truth. Every race had spoken of Earth as nightmare, as terror, yet standing in the dust and blood, they saw it was more than terror. It was trial. It was forge of fire where weakness died and only will remain. The beasts slowed one by one, falling beneath the desperate fury of the crew, their bodies littering the arena, ground steam rising from wounds. The silence returned, heavy, thick, pressing into their chests, every breath labored, every limb trembling, yet they still stood. The human leader stepped forward, eyes glowing beneath the firelight, voice rising across the valley. You survived the first night, but Earth is not finished with you. The real trial has not yet begun. The younger alien collapsed to his knees, voice shaking. What do you mean? What more can there be? We fought, we bled, we survived. What more can you demand? The human's gaze was cold and steady. You fought beasts, you fought hunger, you fought fear. But now you must fight Earth itself, storms, fire, rivers that swallow city skies, that burn with fury. You must face not what hunts you, but what shapes you. The captain rose, though blood still dripped from his wounds, his voice hoarse, yet unbroken. Then show us the truth of this world. If we must endure, then we endure to the end. The human leader raised a hand, and the arena walls shifted, gates opening to reveal paths leading deeper into the valley, where mountains loomed sharp against the night sky, where clouds boiled with storm and rivers glowed with strange light, the air itself heavier, wilder, as though alive. The humans stepped aside, their eyes never leaving the crew, the leader's final words echoing like thunder. Go into the valley, face what Earth gives you. If you survive, then perhaps you are worthy to stand upon our soil. If you fall, then you are nothing more than bones for the ground. The alien crew staggered forward, the dust of the arena clinging to their armor, the stench of blood still heavy upon them. Yet their hearts beating with a strange new rhythm, not only fear, but fire, not only terror, but defiance. They stepped into the valley knowing death waited, yet refusing to turn back. As they crossed the threshold, the sky roared lightning, splitting the heavens. The ground trembled with distant quake. Shadows moved in the cliffs like giants awakening. The air grew colder, sharper, cutting into their skin like knives. This was no longer arena. This was Earth itself, rising to test them. The youngest alien whispered, his voice barely breath. This world does not want us here. This world itself is alive, and it hates us. The armored one growled, no. It does not hate us, it breaks us and remakes us. The captain looked up at the boiling sky, his voice iron. Then, let it try, for we will not break. The storm answered with a roar of thunder, the valley swallowing them whole as shadows closed, and the trial of Earth began anew. The valley groaned like the bones of giants awakening, and the alien crew felt the very ground beneath their feet tremble. With hidden power, the sky above churned with black clouds, pulsing with veins of lightning. Every crack of thunder rolled across the mountains like the roar of some ancient beast hungry for prey. The captain raised his hand, signaling for silence, his eyes locked on the horizon, where walls of storm twisted like serpents across the land. Rain fell in spears heavy and sharp, each drop striking their armor like a hammer, the air thick with electricity, making their skin crawl and their hearts race. The armored one laughed, though his voice carried strain, as if daring the storm to strike harder. He spread his arms wide, shouting into the wind, Earth, if you seek to break us, you will find we break only the weak. His words were bold, but his eyes betrayed the fear within, for even his steel could not fight the sky itself. The medic clutched her pack close, her fingers trembling as she fought against the howling wind, each breath stolen from her lungs. Her voice, cracking the storm, is alive. It moves not like weather, but like predator. As if it hunts us, it feels us, it wants us gone. Lightning split the heavens, striking the cliffs beside them. Stone exploded, raining shards that cut into their skin. One alien fell screaming as the ground gave way beneath his feet. The crew lunged, but the storm tore him away into the darkness, his voice lost to the thunder. The youngest alien froze, terror locking his body, his eyes wide as he watched their comrade vanish. The captain grabbed him, shoving him forward with iron strength, shouting, move. Where you join him, there is no mercy here. This world kills hesitation. They pressed on, their armor slick with rain, their weapons heavy with water. Every step a battle against the storm, the valley twisted into labyrinth of jagged stone, rivers swelling with rain, churning with currents that could drag entire cities into their depths, the land itself shifting as if it breathed. Suddenly a shriek pierced the storm, a shape rising from the churning waters, its body like serpent of lightning, its eyes glowing white, its scales glistening with electricity. It surged upward, towering over them, arcs of lightning dancing from its body, striking the ground with fire. The aliens stumbled back, their weapons raised, but their voices filled with terror. What monster is this? The captain roared, hold the line, do not yield, strike. As if your life is flame, and you must keep it burning. He lunged forward, blade flashing, as lightning coiled around his weapon. The serpent shrieked thunder, shaking the valley as its coils crashed down, tearing stone from the earth. The armored one swung his axe, cleaving into glowing scales. Sparks exploded across the air, searing their skin. Yet he did not falter, his laughter wild. I see now, Earth does not wait for us to find fear. It throws it into our hands and dares us to let go. The medic hurled a spear, striking into the creatures as the beast screamed, writhing, its coils smashing the ground, sending waves of water that tore through the valley. The crew, thrown into chaos, the youngest alien found himself beneath the beast's shadow, his body frozen. Yet in that moment, something inside him broke free. He raised his blade with both hands, screaming with defiance, and drove it into the glowing flesh. The beast recoiled, lightning bursting from its wound, fire tearing through the rain. As the storm shrieked, louder, the crew struck together blow after blow, their voices rising not in fear, but in fury, until the serpent crashed into the river, thrashing, until it was still steam rising from its body as the storm above wailed with rage. The crew gasped for breath, their bodies broken, their armor scorched, yet they stood together, the captain's voice low, yet sharp. Do you see now? Earth itself rises against us. It does not send only beasts of flesh, but beasts of sky, beasts of stone, beasts of water, and fire. Every breath here is trial. The medic fell to her knees, tears mixing with the rain, her voice cracking. Then how do humans endure? How do they survive this world when we can barely stand one night? The humans, watching from the cliffs, their glowing eyes hidden in the storm, finally spoke their leader's voice, carrying across the thunder steady. As stone you begin to learn, Earth does not give strength. Earth demands it. Every storm, every beast, every disaster cuts the weak from the strong, until only those who refuse to fall remain. The captain shouted into the storm, then tell us, is this the end? Have we proven anything, or are we still nothing but prey to this cursed world? The human leader's eyes narrowed, glowing with fire, not prey, but not yet hunters. The trial continues. Earth will test not your blades, not your shields, but your will to rise when the ground itself seeks to swallow you. As if summoned by his words, the valley shook violently, the ground splitting open cracks, tearing across the stone, rivers of fire glowing deep within the earth, spilling upward with smoke and ash. The crew staggered as heat washed over them, their lungs burning, their skin blistering. The youngest alien cried out, voice breaking, it is too much. No living world can be like this. This is not trial, this is death. The captain grabbed his shoulder, his voice sharp, do not speak death's name, it listens here. Fight to breathe, fight to stand, that is Earth's law. The sky roared again as fire met storm, molten rivers flowing across the valley, lightning striking into them, explosions tearing the air apart, shadows rising within the fire, shapes moving vast and terrible, as if the flames themselves were alive and walking toward them. The humans on the cliffs raised their arms in silent command, their leader's final words cutting through the chaos. You have fought beasts of flesh, beasts of storm, now face beasts born of the planet's core. If you survive this, then perhaps you will begin to understand why Earth is the most terrifying world in the galaxy. The crew turned eyes wide with horror as towering figures of flame stepped from the molten rivers, their bodies shifting, their forms alive with burning light, their voices like thunder as they roared across the valley. The aliens drew their weapons once more, their hearts pounding as the storm raged above, the fire raged below, and the planet itself rose against them in fury. Cliffhanger, the fire giant, stepped forward, their burning hands reaching out as the valley became furnace, and the crew prepared for a trial beyond anything they had ever known. The valley burned like a forge of gods, rivers of fire twisting beneath skies of black storm, lightning flashing across clouds, as if the heavens themselves were torn open. The alien crew stood trembling, their weapons raised, but their hearts crushed between fear and defiance, for before them marched the giants of flame, towering beings born from the very core of the planet, their steps shaking the land, their bodies a blaze of living fire. The captain's voice cut through the chaos like steel drawn against steel, his words sharp and unyielding. We do not bow to fear, we do not run, stand and fight, for if Earth wishes to burn us, then we will show this world what it means to fight against death itself. His words spread through the crew like sparks through dry grass, and though their limbs shook, though their breaths burned, they raised their blades, axes, and spears, their eyes set on the burning giants. The armored one roared, his voice echoing like thunder, as he charged forward, axe lifted high his body, colliding with a giant of fire. The axe sank deep into its glowing chest, sparks bursting in a storm. Yet the giant laughed, its voice a roar of crackling flame, hurling the armored one back into the stone, his armor melting, his screams carried away by the wind. But even as his body failed, his hands still clutched the weapon, refusing to release. The medic rushed forward, dragging him from the fire, her own body blistered by heat. Yet her will unbroken, she shouted through the storm, "Earth, you will not have him, not while my blood still runs." She pressed her hands over his chest, pouring every last ounce of strength into saving him, even as her skin cracked from the heat, her face glowing with determination. The youngest alien stood frozen, his weapon trembling in his grip, his eyes wide, watching fire. Giants crush stone beneath their steps, his voice breaking. How do we fight this? How can anything survive such power? Yet deep within he remembered the humans on the cliffs, their glowing eyes unblinking, their words haunting. Earth does not give strength, Earth demands it. He raised his blade, his voice rising into a scream that carried above the storm. I will not yield. I will not die cowering. If this world wants to break me, then it will find I will break the sky itself before I fall. And with that scream, he hurled himself forward, his blade striking into the leg of a fire. Giant flames burst outward, consuming his body, yet he pushed deeper, deeper, until the giant shrieked, falling to its knees, the river of fire, swallowing it whole. The captain saw his crew falling one by one, yet fighting with fury that even death could not silence. He raised his blade high, lightning striking it from above, fire curling around it, until it burned brighter than the storm itself. His voice a roar across the valley. This is not our grave, this is the forge where warriors are made. If Earth wishes to test us, then Earth will see we are not prey, we are not weak, we are not broken. The humans upon the cliffs remained still, their glowing eyes fixed upon the battle. Their leader at last stepped forward, his cloak whipping in the storm, his voice steady and sharp like the edge of a blade. Enough, you have bled, you have burned, you have risen, you have fallen, but you have not fled. That is the truth of Earth. The storm seemed to pause, lightning holding in the sky, thunder rolling, but silent, waiting, as if the planet itself listened. The humans began to descend from the cliffs, stepping across the burning valley, as if fire and storm bowed to them, their eyes glowing with power, not of weapons, but of will. The crew fell to their knees, some broken, some scorched, some barely breathing, yet still alive. They watched in silence as the human leader approached, his gaze fierce, his voice deep. You wonder how we survive this world, you wonder how we breathe, where storms kill and beasts hunt and fire itself rises against us. The answer is simple: we do not survive by chance, we survive because we refuse to die. The medic's voice cracked, her eyes wide. Then you are not survivors, you are something more, something that should not exist. Her words trembled with awe and terror alike. The human leader's face hardened. No, we are what Earth made us. Earth cuts weakness, Earth forges strength, Earth burned away fear, until only defiance remains. That is why our enemies fear us, not because of what we carry in our hands, but because of what no world, no storm, no God has been able to take from us. The captain forced himself to stand, though his body trembled, blood running down his arms, his eyes locked on the human leader, his voice low but sharp. Then this tidal, most terrifying planet in the galaxy, it was never about the storms, it was never about the beasts, it was never about the fire, it was always about you. The human leader gave no answer, only silence, his eyes glowing brighter than the fire itself. The crew felt the truth sink into their bones, heavier than any storm. Earth was not terrifying because of its storms or beasts or fire. Earth was terrifying because it forged creatures who could stand against all of it and still walk forward without fear. The armored one coughed blood, his voice weak but filled with awe. Then this is the end, is it not? We cannot endure longer, we are not meant for this world. The human leader stepped closer, his shadow falling across them, his voice quiet, yet more terrifying than the storm itself. No, this is not the end, this is only the beginning, because you have seen only the surface of Earth and what lies in its storms and fire. You have not yet seen what humanity becomes when it carries Earth into the stars. The crew's hearts froze, their eyes wide, as the storm above broke into silence. The valley glowing red with fire, the humans standing like gods among mortals, the human leaders' final words cutting into their souls as the world itself seemed to listen. Cliffhanger, you have seen the planet, now prepare to see its children, and when the galaxy sees them, it will understand why Earth is not only the most terrifying planet, but also the most terrifying origin.